Hi, everyone. Joe Oriema here with you on YesNetwork.com, and welcome to the first studio edition of Catching Up with John Flaherty. I'm here with a man who needs no introduction at all, Flash. John Flaherty here in the Yes Studios. A little more formal than we're used to, sir.
It's a little more formal than we're used to, but I think we're going to be able to pull it off, Joe.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the inconsistencies of the Yankees hitters this year, especially Robinson Cano, a guy who's a .300 career hitter, hitting .260 in August right now. Talk about his problems and the Yankees hitters' problems.
You know, it's kind of frustrating for the Yankee fans and for everybody watching this team. Robinson Cano, such a good second-half player last year offensively. He did well coming out of the break, but he hasn't followed it up. And the whole lineup, really, you can talk about everybody. Derek Jeter really hasn't had a Derek Jeter-type year. He's picking it up lately. Johnny Damon was red-hot for the year, and then he went through a little slump. But I think the addition of Hideki Matsui and getting an everyday lineup in there where everybody knows where they're going to fit in this lineup, you're going to rotate the number 9 spot with the catchers, Ivan Rodriguez, Jose Molina. The rest of the guys, Joe, should feel comfortable now that they know where their spot in the lineup is, and you should see some better production.
Now, one thing that's been a problem with the offense is timely hitting. Alex Rodriguez, who during his MVP season last year really came through in the clutch in a lot of, game-winning situations. A lot of the hitters in the Yankees lineup this year cannot hit with runners in scoring position. They can't get that guy in from third with less than 2 outs. What seems to be the problem there? You know,
it's funny you bring up Alex Rodriguez, and there's a lot of Yankees to blame on this one here. And it's just one of those things that I talked to Kevin Long, the hitting instructor. Can you work on anything in batting practice? Situational hitting, runners on base, and there's nothing that you can do for when you get into a ball game where you can relax. Bobby Abreu is really the one guy who can slow the game down, work a deep count, really concentrate on getting his pitch and driving it. The rest of this Yankee lineup, it seems like when they come up with the runner in scoring position, you can see the tension. You can see them grip that bat a little bit tighter, and it just hasn't worked out for them. You hope that they get Johnny Damon on base a lot of times during a ball game so they don't think that one at-bat is going to be the only opportunity to drive in a run.
Now, the offense has certainly been a problem with this team, but you look at the pitching, and they've had some really good starting pitching performances from Andy Pettitte, Mike Mussina, Sidney Ponson, Darryl Rasner, and then it goes the other way. It seems like, when they're in a series, they get that one big pitching performance, and then they have two that are, a little down in the dumps. So what's the problem with the pitching?
I just don't see 5 guys consistently that you can count on. Mike Mussina, Andy Pettitte, from here on out, you have to win all of their starts because those are your 2 go-to guys. Darryl Rasner has had a nice start. He's been up and down a little bit. Sidney Ponson has been great, but you figure at some point he's going to struggle. And now we're talking about Carl Pavano being your number 5 guy. If you're going to go on a long winning streak, are you going to feel comfortable with those 5 starters? You feel good about the first 2. The last 3, you just don't know what you're going to get start to start.
Now, looking at the pitching rotation, the Yankees have lost Jabba Chamberlain. They've lost Chin-Ming Wang. A lot of injuries this year. I know Yankee fans don't want to make injury an excuse, but Hank Steinbrenner basically opened the door for the Yankees players, saying that injuries were a problem for the team this year and kind of gave them the okay if they don't make the postseason. How do players and Joe Girardi react to Hank Steinbrenner's comments?
I guess if you're a player or you're the manager, Joe Girardi, you basically acknowledge that the ownership has acknowledged all the injuries like you mentioned, Joe. But if you're in that clubhouse, you're not having the excuse of injuries and we're not going to make the postseason. You're still battling every day with the group that you have. And if you look at the lineup, you have enough proven hitters in that lineup. The front office has gone out and got Ivan Rodriguez. I mean, they've made some nice additions with Nady and Marte. So they're doing their part. When ownership says, you know what, we might not make the playoffs because of the injuries, you acknowledge that. Right. But from a player's standpoint, it's not an excuse. You have to go out there every day and win.
And speaking of the division and the wild card races right now, the Yankees are double digits behind the Tampa Bay Rays, who have a bevy of injuries themselves, and they continue to win. And the Red Sox, who they haven't been healthy this year as well, and they're still behind them and the Minnesota Twins in the wild card race. How do you see these races shaping up for the end of August into September?
Well, we're at the end of August now, and I think you and I and everybody has been waiting for Tampa to fall off. And it's funny, if you look at their lineup, they have one guy hitting .290, the rest of them .230, .240. But unlike the Yankees, they get big hits in big situations, pitching and defense. Like you said, Boston, they've been struggling a little bit. They've had their own share of injuries. I see this between Boston and the New York Yankees for that wild card spot. And you figure, or you hope, I should say, that it comes down to the last weekend in Boston and the Yankees still having a shot to make a run at the wild card.
So right now, what do you think the Yankees need to do? Obviously, they need to continue to win. They need to win series from this point forward. But what do the Yankees as a team collectively need to do to make the postseason?
Well, you know, the New York Yankees, they have their back up against the wall. But I think against the second division clubs, the Toronto Blue Jays, Baltimore Orioles, you go out to Seattle for 3, you have to win those games. I mean, you have to win those series 2 out of 3. But you got to be thinking sweep. And then we just talked about Boston. You have 6 games left with Boston. If you can go 4 out of 6, maybe 5 out of 6, and hope that they hit a little road bump along the way, then you're right in this thing. But, I mean, you have to take care of the second division clubs.
Flash, as always dropping the knowledge for us.
Even in
looking good in the studio. All right, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, John.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Catching Up with John Flaherty. Keep coming back to YesNetwork.com for all of the latest on the Yankees as they chase a spot in the American League playoffs. For John Flaherty, I'm Joe Oriema saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.